Hey tankers, and welcome to World of Tanks with PR154, where we are on fjords following Wizzzard in their Tier 9 American tank destroyer, the T95. This is an absolute beast of a vehicle, extremely well armoured, fantastic 105mm main armament. It does have one of the longer reloads of the Tier 9 assault tank destroyers. But Wizzzard has done its best to offset that by equipping a gun rammer and improved ventilation. We also notice it's pulling up to rear against some of these other heavy tanks as well. So there is also a turbocharger loaded with the view to offsetting that as well. We can see that Wizzzard has gone for the not messing around loadout with 20 APCR shells and one ready to go. These will give you 750 hit points of alpha damage with 320mm of penetration. The standard stuff isn't too bad either at 276mm of penetration, but he is in a Tier 9-10 matchup, so that heavier load of APCR is probably sensible under the circumstances, albeit will probably be a little bit expensive at the end. Straight out the gate, Wizzzard has elected not to go for the traditional J-line heavy push, but has instead decided to go straight for the bowl and is assisting greatly in maximising the hurt for these two Tier 9 heavy tanks that have pushed in, and they are now subject to a pretty frightening situational imbalance here with four different tanks firing at them. Unfortunately, they have lost the Stridsvagn K for their troubles, but that's two less enemy guns in the game from less than 2 minutes in, so that's going to be very handy for their team. It's situational imbalances like this that you want to be looking for in World of Tanks to sort of be able to cause the maximum number of hit points of damage to the enemy without with minimal loss of hit points to your team as well. Situations like that have what's called a force multiplier effect. So one tank getting engaged by two tanks, it's the equivalent of being engaged by 4 tanks one after the other. It's just a situation you can't win just because there's so many more guns being pointed at your vehicles. So they're moving to create another situational imbalance here by pushing around and coming into the back of these heavy tanks that have pushed through. And so we've got about 4 or 5 friendly vehicles in here, and they're about to be joined by another 3 in the rear. It appears that the enemy team has committed a much stronger force to the A-line, so it will be really important for Wizzzard's team to push in, kill this as quickly as possible, and try to get back to the cap circle before the enemy team can influence that. I'm not sure if they quite realise the sort of advantage that they have on the A-line at the moment. They're certainly not breaking out of that as quickly as they should be, but I guess now that Wizzzard's cohort down here on the J-line has been spotted, there might be some reasonably astute individuals doing the math and realising that they've got a bit of a localised advantage at the expense of other sectors. So they're down to their last tank in the south, with Courageous Chicken in the IS-7 doing a not so courageous thing and drowning, but I'll leave that with them. You can see the enemy team has elected to break out and now making for Wizzzard's team's cap circle. They will be meeting an FV4005 along the way. How much success that vehicle has, we'll see how they go. But certainly Wizzzard's team will have to be moving back towards the cap circle with all haste. This is one of the disadvantages of committing heavily to the J-line, because it is quite out of the way. It does take a long time to get there, and then it takes a long time to get anywhere else from there. So if you have an enemy push that's a lot more mobile that comes over the A-line, which granted that takes a while to get anywhere from as well, then they do have the ability to outflank you pretty rapidly, or at least establish a lot more control and initiative on the map. But in this case, their earlier delay up here at A8 has probably been quite crucial for the success of Wizzzard's team, and they're able to get back and save the cap circle in time. Now, having said that, they are 2 tanks down at this point in time, and at a slight hit point disadvantage as well. It is fortunate, however, that they appear to be able to maintain a slight numerical advantage here, and also accordingly a slight hit point advantage. You can see the 121B is working on the what's that, a T54, so tier 10 on the tier 9. It likely has the advantage there. Wizzzard's still in fantastic condition, hasn't taken any damage as yet, but they're looking forward to pushing through and come to grips with these last 2 enemy tanks. Trying to squeeze past the IS-7. Takes a hit from the tier 9 American medium tank T54E1. Sorry, heavy tank T54E1. Just waiting on that reload again, but fortunately the 121B is able to come in behind and basically clean that enemy vehicle up. We can see the enemy T95 has now joined the fray. There might have been a bit of a miscalculation in their deployment, and you can see the stark difference in the playstyle here. So Wizzzard has basically gone full commitment here early in the game to sort of nuke enemy vehicles in the bowl, and then headed as quickly as he could over towards the J line to sort of help that out. The enemy T95, by contrast, it appears to have taken more of a stance of sniping in the early game, and that's looks like that's really hurt the team's prospects in this particular instance. It was probably an unwise move, considering you had so many tanks committed up here on the A line, and then just a handful of tanks committed through here. They probably needed to play in a position of support for their team, or I suppose doing something to participate more thoroughly in the team's aggressive efforts. But for all that, it appears they have had some success. The enemy team has kind of had the upper hand through most of the game, and that's in spite of sort of losing 2 areas of the map between the J line and losing the F line quite early. Of course, the late push by the enemy T95 has enabled that team to retake that mid. It's a bit of a dangerous situation for Wizzzard here, starting to get wrapped up by 2 enemy tank destroyers. T95, of course, having the same massive 155mm main armament. Has the APCR loaded and is able to knock out his counterpart with a shot to the lower frontal plate, which just leaves the Grill A15 and the SPG left in the fight. Now that's a big 15cm main armament on the Grill A15, so this is potentially a really dangerous situation for Wizzzard. But we're now in a position where the Grill A15 is one-shottable, but Wizzzard is as well. And we're also aware that there's an enemy SPG somewhere out there. Fortunately, hiding behind this mountain here, the firing angles that the enemy SPG can take are going to be quite limited, considering we last saw the SPG over here. So this is anyone's game at this point in time. Noting selection of ammunition here, Wizzzard has gone for the high explosive, which will be effective at both the Grill A and the SPG should Wizzzard be running into that. And it appears the SPG has moved up in support of the Grill A15, so potentially a very dangerous situation here for Wizzzard. It's the 212A as well, which sort of has one of the faster rates of fire among the tier 10 self-propelled guns as well. So This is a position at which Wizard cannot loiter. Trying to get unspotted, trying to keep intervening cover between himself and the SPG will be critical at this point in time, and we can see that reflected in Wizard's movements right now. What Wizard really needs is for the Grill A15 to make the first move. And in these situations, it comes down to, all right, well, who wants the win? The Grill A15's best option is to try to reacquire the T95, but Wizard is able to take the initiative there and knock it out with another well-placed high explosive round. The SPG has not been able to return fire owing to Wizard's very quick repositioning into the depression out of line of sight. Wizard is most likely unspotted by now and can start to take the offensive against the 212A. The enemy shell just lands a little bit too short there, and that's the final kill to Wizard for his 6th of the game. So, very well deserved victory there by Wizard. Let's take a look at the results. Very nicely done there by Wizard, having picked up an Ace Mastery badge from bottom tiered. Also 2 epic medals as well between Top Gun for taking 6 kills from the enemy, and High Calibre medal for accounting for at least 20% of the hit points of the enemy team. Also picked up a couple of other badges of merit between Shell Proof, where he's blocked more damage than is his hit points, Duelist for killing at least 2 enemy vehicles that have damaged them, and the Fire for Effect medal for doing at least their hit points in damage, which with over 6,000 hit points, 6,248 hit points inflicted on the enemy to be exact, he's done in absolute spades. Having a look at the team scores, well-deserved placement, top by XP despite being bottom tiered, and that's also reflected in the VZ 51 as well, placing second by XP despite being bottom tiered for that game. Having a look at the detailed report, he has actually been able to turn a profit with this game. I think there's something a little bit wrong with how the credits have been calculated in what replays at the moment, but in spite of a very substantial gold loadout, we have been able to turn a modest profit for this game at nearly 15,000 credits. So that's just testament to a fantastic result there by Wizard in the T95. And if you've got a fantastic result that you'd like to share with the rest of the world, please reach out over Discord or any of the links below, and we'll do our best to sort you out. In the meantime, take care out there.